Hey guys, it's Barrett with the Gimpy Camper. So today I want to talk about the Gen Y Executive hitch. I love this hitch. I'm so glad that I went to it. This was kind of my cherry on top of my truck, which I consider my Mona Lisa, okay? A lot of people will love it or hate it, but we've done a whole video series we're releasing about the upgrades we've done on the truck. I really like it. You know, one thing, I've been using the Anderson hitch. I've used it for 50,000 miles, I think. Had no issues out of it, well, very few issues, and Anderson always took care of me if I needed one of the bolts that go into the adapter that mounts on the fifth wheel, or even sent me a plastic handle that broke one time, but no catastrophic failures, no cracks in it, nothing like that. So I've been happy with that, but the issue is you still got the base in the bed of the truck, so you still have to deal with that. And it doesn't weigh a lot, so it's easy to take out and put back. But the problem is it's still there. So I wanted to simplify that. So as part of simplifying that, I decided to go to the Gen Y hitch. Now, a lot of people like the Reese Goose Box. I think they're pretty similar in what they do. You know, you do have that issue of certain manufacturers saying, oh, we only like Cougar, Keystone's a big one of like, if you use anything besides the Reese Goose Box, because they own that company, then, or Lippert does, I think, one of them, however it works out, but there's affiliations there. But if you use that one, then they'll warranty it if your frame breaks, but they won't do it if you're using the Anderson hitch, which is also why Anderson has a $1 million policy that's privately, but then you have to deal with, like, if something happens, they have to prove that it was the hitch and not, so then you could theoretically have an issue with getting somebody to cover it. But with the Gen Y, now a lot of people go back to this Brinkley study. I've never really looked at that, but apparently they come on a lot of the Brinkley fifth wheels now, maybe all of them, and they did a study about like the frame flex issues and stuff using the Gen Y, and supposedly it's great information. That's really all I know about it, because I'd already decided I wanted the Gen Y before that. Now with the Gen Y, there's a couple of different options. One option is it goes into a fifth wheel. It's the Gen Y, so it's got, you know, their whole thing is they got torsion bars, and so it kind of adds a little bit of suspension to that. But they have one that's got a fifth wheel head on it, and it just goes into a regular fifth wheel hitch. Now to me, that's just a waste. I personally care less and think that it's worthless. But some people, they like having that big fifth wheel hitch, I guess. But if you're going to do that, why would you not get the fifth wheel conversion? So just like the Goose Box, this basically takes everything and it puts it all the way up through the pin box, all that stress and stuff. It's not just like the little mount where you put on the bottom of a fifth wheel and then put that over a gooseneck ball. It's not like that. It's the whole hitch is built together. And so I don't understand why you would want to waste that much money and still have to have a big old hitch in your truck. That's just my opinion. The question that I had having my short bed is, what's my turning capability, my turning radius? Now the problem with the turning radius and hitches is you never know until you buy one and you set it up. So luckily I've done that for you. So if you're interested, if you got especially a 4th gen Ram 2500 or 3500 with the short bed, then you can go back and look at my videos and you can see if I had the B&W slider, what kind of turning radius am I going to have. But that also can vary a little bit with the nose of the camper too, so it's not 100%. So if you got a Cougar and you got a short bed 4th gen Ram, then you pretty much know. Now you also know with the Anderson hitch from my videos there of what your turning radius is. And now, thanks to this video, you're also going to know what your turning radius is with the Gen Y. Now there is a caveat to that. I knew that having the short bed, especially if I was going to try to get along and have a toolbox in the bed, because I always liked having a toolbox in the bed, and I decided to get rid of the soft topper, which I always liked. But when I was thinking about it, my wife said it wasn't very manly. And I don't know, I disagree with it. I think it's manly, I like it. But anyway, so I knew that I needed all the pros that I could get. So I did order the offset B&W ball. So it goes down into the hitch, and then it's 3 or 4 inches that it sets the ball back to the rear of the camper there. So with that, I can turn 75, 80 degrees just like I could with the Anderson hitch. There's virtually no difference in my turning radius. The biggest problem with the Gen Y is getting it mounted. So I have a whole video about this, but I paid my friend down at Shelburne RV, Steve, I paid his shop for a few hours of labor to use their forklift. And I was there, I filmed a lot of it. So we took off the old kingpin, and then they used the forklift to lower that down. And then they put the Gen Y on the forklift, raised it up. We got it in the right mounting holes there. And then put some pins in there. Used the same bolts to go back in and bolt that thing up. And it was good as done. Now it did take a while because it's not easy feats with any of that. It takes a while to get all those big bolts off and everything. And it's a 2-person job, so it's quite a bit of shop time if you have somebody else do it. I'll just throw that out there. But the biggest issue we had with the installation was whenever we went to drop it down on the ball for the first time, it was catching and it wasn't dropping all the way down. Well, I spent an hour on the phone through emails talking to somebody at Gen Y, and they told me, you know, sometimes you get a little overspray in there and you got to go out and clean that up with a file a little bit. Didn't really see anything there. I gave up because they said they'd send me a replacement too if I wanted it. But I gave up, and then Steve walked by and he said, "What's wrong?" So I'd already took it all apart and everything. He said, "Well, I see what's going on right now." And so he could tell by looking at it that there's a piece of metal there, and the way that it was shaped, essentially it was getting hung. It's supposed to kind of slip over as part of the locking mechanism of what locked it down to the ball. And so he took it off, took it over the workbench, filed on it for about 15 seconds. We put it back together and it worked just fine. So sometimes it's better to just have somebody that knows what they're doing do this stuff. That's all I'm going to say. Now, we did use this hitch from Tennessee to Texas and back. We did have a trailer issue where we had 2 broken springs on the trailer in Louisiana, which we have a whole video about that. But this hitch was so great, I never had any issue with it. I love it. Now, some of my pictures, some people are like, "Oh, you need to have more weight on your camper because it's not like flexing that down enough." Well, I'm not going to add extra weight to the camper just to make the hitch look better. It does fine for me. I will say that I probably did step it up to the next size because whenever you're ordering the hitch, it can be a little confusing because basically you have to know what your kingpin is to start with, and that can show you which one you need to order. And it also can show you like the weight limits. And so like my camper was a little bit more than what the lightest one was, so I think I stepped it up one, and so obviously it's probably more beefy than what it needs to be for this camper, but I'd rather it be more beefy than not beefy enough, if you're picking up what I'm putting down. All right, so thanks guys for being part of the channel. Thanks for following us. Be sure to tune in next week so you can see next week's video as well.
Do not forget to hit that subscribe button.